Hello Tinjik, my name is Cliff Hoeffner with Duncan-Parnell. Duncan-Parnell is the Trimble geospatial and water dealer for the state of Tennessee. Today my presentation will be over Trimble SiteVision, a new way to visualize your GIS data out in the field. Trimble SiteVision is a combination of hardware and software that will allow you to visualize your GIS data in high accuracy, 3D augmented reality out in the field. With that being said, let's take a look at the hardware. The Trimble SiteVision Handheld incorporates Trimble Catalyst, a high accuracy GNSS receiver, an electronic measurement device or EDM, a power management system that powers Trimble Catalyst, the EDM, and also your mobile device running the Trimble SiteVision software. With that, let's set up the hardware. To set up the Trimble SiteVision Handheld takes a few easy steps. First, we're going to insert the battery. Second, we're going to grab our mobile device with the SiteVision app downloaded, and we're going to insert that device into the handheld. We're going to plug the cable into our mobile device, and then lastly, we're going to power on the SiteVision handheld. Alright, now that we have the hardware configured, I've opened up the SiteVision application on my mobile device. Initially it's going to give us a splash screen just to tell us to be careful while we're using the application. I'm going to accept that. The last model that I had loaded into SiteVision will then automatically load up by itself. Initially you're going to see that data pop up on the screen inaccurately until it gets a location from the Trimble Catalyst antenna. The next thing we're really waiting for now is at the top left, you'll see our GPS accuracy. We're really waiting to get a RTK fixed, and when that happens, you'll see the accuracy drop down to roughly about 1/10 of a foot. Once that happens, then we'll be ready to calibrate the model. In the meantime, we can actually load in a new model if we wanted to by simply clicking the hamburger button at the bottom left, going to load model, and at that time we'd have the option of loading a model via the Trimble Connect Cloud. One that we had previously saved to the device, or we could create a new model if we were not working with our GIS data. Alright, now that we have an RTK fix and the accuracy has dropped below 1/10 of a foot, we're ready to orient the model. So you see at the top there, it's going to ask me to walk 10 yards straight ahead, and the orientation sensor is red. So I'll start walking, and as I do so, it's going to be counting down. Once I get to 0, you're going to see the accuracy indicator turn green and the model data is going to pop into place. This particular model is a utility network that is set up to be a on-ground network, so all the lines are actually on the ground versus down in the ground, which we'll look at in our next model. In here you're going to see that there's a water system, a gas system, a sewer system, and a stormwater system. The data gets quite a bit more complex over here in my neighbor's yard. Alright, now that our model's oriented, let's take a look around at the different tools that are in the application itself. So right underneath the orientation sensor, you'll see that there's a view distance slider, and if I pull that down, you'll see that the data farthest away from me starts to disappear, and if I push it back up, it comes back. What that's for is if you have a really complex model, sometimes it's necessary to limit how far SiteVision is displaying that for performance reasons. In this particular case, the model is small enough that that's not the case, so I can leave the full view going. Right at the very bottom left there, you'll see the cross-section slider, and if I do that, it does exactly what it says. It's going to show me a cross-section of my data, and I can pull that back and push it forward. Okay. Next, I have a transparency slider, and it does just like ArcMap does. If I come through here and I slide it over, the view of that AR data is going to get more transparent. If I pull it to the far right, it's going to become very bright. To the right of that, I have my 2D, 3D view. So if I click on the little cube, it's going to take me into a 3D view of my data. It's going to show me where I'm particularly standing and which way I'm oriented when looking at my data. Above that, I have a pit view. So in the next example, when I actually take this data and push it down into the ground, it'll become more apparent what that's for, but I'll go ahead and turn that on, and you'll see that the pit view will follow my view, and I can walk over and I can look down into that particular pit. Each one of those rings is representative of a single foot, so you can kind of see how far that data is down in the ground. Then the top right, you'll see a layers button, and what that does is give me the ability to turn data on and off that I don't necessarily want to see. So for instance, if I want to turn that gas main off, I can cut it off. I can also cut off the gas service. All right, now that we went through the different tools inside of SiteVision, let's take a look at the data. So as you see, we'll start here with my water meter. In this particular case, I used the default SiteVision icon. I didn't actually set an icon for the meter. By default, what it'll do is anything that's a point feature will basically be like a ball, and a line will be a line. But if I click on that particular feature, any GIS attribution that was to be in the feature would pop up. In this case, the only thing I have in there is the count ID, facility ID, and the GNSS height. But if I had, say, a meter manufacturer or an account number or something of that nature, you would see all that information. Same thing goes if I click on the service line. I can really quickly tell that it's a 3/4 inch copper line. Same thing if I had a installation date or a manufacturer date or any other information that I wanted, that would be displayed as well. Getting into the icons, with the SiteVision visualization manager, you'll notice that my service line is a thin line just because it's showing it as a 3/4 inch line versus the actual main line over there is showing as a 6-inch PVC pipe. The sewer line is showing as, I believe, an 8-inch. And then when I get over into the stormwater stuff, I believe that's a 8-inch going to a 12-inch. But it actually will display the line size based on the attribution. It will also push the data down into the ground with a depth field, which we'll show you in the next model. But you can also set icons for features. So you'll notice over here, my actual manhole icon is a literal manhole lid. So I don't actually have a representation of a manhole, it's just a lid there for my point feature. And I made it the one with I grabbed that one because it had like a pretty cool ship icon on it. Thought that was kind of cool. But anyways, if I look down through here, you'll notice that I have 2 stormwater grates. And in that particular case, I used an icon that was a 3D icon that was down in the ground. So as I walk up over to the stormwater grates, you'll notice that it's actually showing the box for the grate down in the ground. The pipes are still on the ground because, again, we're looking at the above ground model. We're going to switch over to the in-ground model here in a minute. But you'll see there's my stormwater grate, and you'll see that there's my other grate. Pipe is coming from that grate and then running down to the end of the road. Also over here, you'll see I have a fire hydrant and a valve. And so, you know, obviously we don't necessarily need to have a fire hydrant indicator because you're not going to miss one of those. But say, for instance, if you were looking at plan data that you just necessarily didn't have that actual fire hydrant there, you can see where it was going to get placed. Same thing goes with my valve. When I'm looking at my valve, it's kind of hard to see, but you'll see that the valve box is right below where that valve is. One thing that I've got to notice from using this is that I like to have in-ground features as above ground icons because it makes them really easy to see where they're at in the ground. All right, I've switched over into the in-ground model. Exact same data set as what we were looking before, but now SiteVision is displaying the data using the depth field of the pipes. Anytime that you do this, the orientation of the pipes will look slightly off because it's actually showing you where that pipe is in the ground, where previously we were looking at the pipe on the ground. And so this where it comes into play. A really good time to use the pit view. So if I click on my pit view and turn that on, you can see that my service line is 2 feet deep. Each one of those lines there, rings inside the pit view, is a depth indicator of a foot. So you see that the service line is down at the 2-foot ring. And if I come over here to where the gas line is and look down, you can see my gas line is down there at the 4-foot ring, and you see there's, you know, roughly about 2 feet of separation between those 2 pieces of pipe. So anyways, I'll turn that off. And so another indicator where this becomes very handy is where you have multiple utilities crossing over each other. So this is a great example where I have a stormwater that is going over the top of the sewer line, and you can see that the water main is on the back side of the catch basin, so it makes it really easy to visualize where your utilities are in the ground. All right, now that we have reviewed looking at our data inside of Trimble SiteVision, there are a few other tools to help us complete some tasks. At the very bottom of the screen, I have my tool menu. When my list of tools opens up, the far left tool there with the camera icon is what's called a to-do. A to-do captures a location in a screenshot and gives me the ability to email that to myself or a group of team members. The next icon over allows me to capture a location, and that location is stored as a CSV file. The next icon over is to capture a line or area. The middle icon allows me to get or to measure a cut or fill from a surface. That's usually more oriented to our surveying and site tech folks. The next icon over allows me to measure a slope. And then the following two icons allows me to create a surface and a profile. Those two icons are oriented to the site tech folks for doing earthwork and construction. So for the first tool, we're going to create a to-do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on it. You'll notice that the tool in the middle of the screen changes to the to-do icon, and if I click it, it's going to take a screenshot. All right, and then from there it allows me to give it a name. So if I click on the tab there, I can remove it and change that to box too high. And then in the description I can say add dirt. And say okay. All right, and then from there I have a priority, so I can do it's a low, normal, high. When it's due, is this an issue or a comment? And then from there I can click on the screen and I can associate additional team members for my organization. Whoever I associate this to do with will receive an email with the note in the screenshot. So once I fill that out, I'm just going to click save, and then from there on I can do some more to-dos if needed. So for the next tool, we're going to use the capture feature location. So if I click on it, again, the tool is going to switch to the capture location tool, and it gives me an option of either GNSS, EDM, or the AR for doing the measurement. We're going to leave that on GNSS, and we're going to walk over here to the water line, and we're going to add in a valve. So what we'd do is we'd walk over and find that particular feature that we're missing, and then simply just tap on the icon, and that's going to capture the location and give me the option to name it. So I'm going to call this one missing water valve. Say done. And then it gives me the option to set a icon with that I can visually see. So I'm going to scroll down and grab the Cliff valve there, and I believe that's the above ground valve. Right, and then when I'm done, I just click the X at the top right to save. And what that will do is it'll store that as a CSV file. And if I back away here, you'll see there's my valve that I placed. And then so while I'm working inside my model, I'll see my valve that I placed in the model. All right, for the next tool, we're going to do the measure line or area. So again, it gives me the option of either using GNSS, the EDM, or the AR. We're going to use the EDM. So once it connects to the EDM, what we're going to do is simply line the crosshair up where we want our point and take a shot. Take our second shot, and you'll see that it gives us a horizontal distance from point 1 to point 2. Once we're finished with that, we hit the check, and we have the option to name that feature, and that will be stored in a CSV file. All right, if we want to do an area, works the same exact way. So I'll take a point, Take a point. Take a point. Take a point. And again, it'll give me my surface area, length of the last line, and the total length. So I can hit the check to save, and again, it's going to have me name that to save to the CSV file. Say finish to save. Alright, for the next tool, we're going to measure the slope. Alright, and it basically works the exact same way as measure the line tool. Again, you can use GNSS or the EDM. We're going to use the EDM again. So I'll grab a point, grab another point, right, and then it's going to give me my grade at 5.9%. Over 22 feet, and you see that it's a vertical distance of 1.3 feet. I can name that again. And that will save that in the CSV file. Alright, that has concluded our live demonstration. I hope you've enjoyed the presentation, and I look forward to your questions. Thank you.